All right, from the frozen shores of the North Saskatchewan River right here in scenic Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, this is Do You Know Jack radio show with my guest today, John Gallagher of RAVEN.
Good to be here.
For
actually, it's good. It's good to be here. It's not good. It wouldn't be good to be in Saskatchewan at the moment, but it's good to be here. So that's all right.
Yeah. Well, now I was thinking about this before I called you, but I mean, I'm sure in your band's long and illustrious history, you've probably played Saskatchewan a few times, eh?
Believe it or not, we are sadly lacking in our Canadian venues and towns that we've played, and we would address that next time out.
Yeah.
We've really, it's been Toronto, Montreal, occasionally Quebec, and Vancouver, and that's it, which is pretty sad because, it's bucket list for us. We really want to, get to your neck of the woods. We want to get to the Far East. We want to get, to Calgary, Edmonton, forward to it.
Yeah, now I would imagine part of the issue with Canada is maybe the long distances in between and, even just the struggle to locate venues in each town, maybe?
The only time we had anything like a comprehensive tour of Canada, there was lawsuits literally not playing.
Oh, wow.
It was a very strange set of affairs.
Yeah.
What had happened was, the original singer from Anthrax, when they were opening for us in '84, they came and he had all his vitamins individually wrapped in aluminum foil, which of course caused a 4-hour delay at the border as they went through our asses with a toothbrush, basically, to looking for drugs because they all thought that was drugs. And by the time we got to the venue, everyone was freaking out. The hall was full. The hall was totally impossible for us to play. At the time, we had a huge drum riser, and the drums were literally screwed to that riser, and they couldn't fit in. We were prepared to set up on the floor. The promoter wouldn't give us food, wouldn't give us water, and it was this huge fight, and we walked out, and there was lawsuits and all kinds of crap went down.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
So it never worked out.
Well, here's hoping that, in the near future, you guys can get out to some of the other towns apart from Vancouver, Montreal, Toronto, and the latter.
Exactly. Let's get out, because we always have a good time when we play in Canada. It's always, everywhere we've played, it's been a great audience. It's always a lot of fun. So let's, the more the merrier.
For sure. Well, now, of course, speaking of live shows, the band RAVEN has got a new live album that just dropped, maybe I want to say a few weeks ago. It's called Screaming Murder Death from Above. I think now this is sort of a board show that was taped and then later handed to you guys sort of completely by surprise.
Yeah, we had no idea it was being recorded. We were on tour in Europe, special guests on the Udo Dirkschneider tour.
Right.
So we had, a nice long hour sets, and we played this gig in Aalborg, Denmark. And the sound man came up and said, "Hey, I taped your show," and handed us a memory stick, gave it to Mike, our drummer, and he went, "Oh, okay, cool," and thought nothing more of it until we had all kinds of teething problems doing the brand new studio album and kind of missed our window, and it was, it's not going to come out until the end of the year at the earliest.
Yeah.
And it was a case of like, well, it's been so damn long. Let's put something out to keep the momentum going here so we can continue to, to work, to go out and tour. Do we have anything live? Maybe we could do an EP, blah, blah, blah. So we had a few shows and there was some technical issues. And then Mike found this one memory stick and played it and says, "You've got to hear this thing. It's like outrageous." And there literally was a few minor technical things, like, somebody obviously kicked the microphone away from the guitar cabinet slightly. So, we had to do some major EQ on that. And I broke string on the bass at the start of Hell Patrol for like like 5 seconds, because I just, threw the guitar down, picked up the other one, and kept singing and kept playing as soon as I got it plugged in. So we kind of did a, cut and paste job and fixed that up.
Right.
And there you go. That was it. The only other thing we did is maybe cut the gaps between the songs a little tighter, just so we could get more music and less talking.
Yeah.
And it just bursts out the speakers. It's just like full of energy and craziness, and it's exactly how we would have wished a live album to come out. But there was no thought beforehand, and there was no fear of the red light being on for recording. So it's totally natural, and we're extremely happy with it.
Well, now that's what I was going to say, is I would imagine, you guys have released live material in the past, so of course you're no stranger to that aspect of it, but I would imagine, there was a certain freedom maybe in not knowing that brought out some different aspect to the band.
Over the years, you kind of get a lot of that worn off you, because literally you can burp and it'll end up on YouTube. So there's part of you's aware that everything you're doing is being photographed or videoed or, what have you. But just the fact that you were saying, okay, we're going to record this thing live tonight, automatically put something in your brain where you kind of clamp down a little bit and you're like, okay, we'll play it safe here, maybe, even subconsciously. So there was none of that at all.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And
the last time we did a live album was in Japan. And I had laryngitis, and I literally couldn't talk.
Oh, wow.
And it was like, this sucks. If I'll do the best I can. I hit the first note. I thought, okay, I can get through this.
Yeah.
So my voice is not 100% on that. It's a great record. It's a great document of the show. But, these things happen. Luckily on this one, I'm in far better shape, so it works so much better.
For sure. And now you mentioned, I guess your quote-unquote new drummer, Mike Heller. I guess, this tour maybe represented an opportunity for you guys to maybe showcase his drumming a little bit and sort of introduce him to the hardcore Raven fan base.
It's the way this has happened. It's kind of, it all fell into our lap as if it was planned. It's brilliant because it's a great bridge between the last studio album and what's going to be the new studio album. So you get to hear the older material, as it were, revved up and played, with panache and craziness by Mr. Heller, who was just an outrageous, phenomenal talent. And has really kicked us up our behinds, and we've all, inspired each other. So it's a very exciting time for us right now, for sure. We were laughing the other day, we haven't rehearsed yet. We've done over 200 shows and we haven't rehearsed yet.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Unless you count, the occasional sound check. That's usually, Mike charted everything out. The first show we played with him, we just talked for half an hour.
Yeah, I was reading that.
And it was crazy. And then after that, it was like, why are you playing it like this? And he goes, oh my God, you're playing it exactly like the studio records. Well, we play a little faster and looser than that now. He goes, oh, really? Oh, good. I says, yeah, go crazy. Have fun. Do what you want. And of course, there's an immediate connection with the drums and bass where we've got that ESP thing going on right from the get-go.
Yeah.
And that's just, that's just so much fun when that happens.
Yeah.
So the three of us have got that. We can stop on a dime. We always have our little jam parts at the end of the set, and we can just stop and play whatever song, we've got on our mind, and just change gears. And that's what it's all about. It's not about playing live to backing tracks and click tracks and making sure you nail the same solo every night. That's not rock and roll. Yeah. We're all about giving someone, something special, that, a one-off every night. Give them different. My brother never plays the same solos twice. I never play the same fills twice, and neither does Mike. So, it's old school. It's the way Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin used to try and go at it.
For sure,
That's our inspiration, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, and I was gonna ask you now, in terms of the actual set list that's on this record. I mean, like, how flexible was the set list throughout that entire tour with Udo?
Well, it's always difficult when you're in an opening position because and especially with their crew, who were a real pain in the behind. They really were. It wasn't a great deal of fun working with them. You just, you have to be on and you have to be off, literally, the drop of a hat. So, we usually worked it so there was a slight amount of wiggle room, so we'd finish like maybe a minute or 30 seconds early, even if we stretched it out a bit. So it's pretty much dead on.
Yeah.
And because of that, you kind of, the first few shows, you're playing around with it a little bit and you get it right and go, okay, we'll pretty much stick to this and maybe change one song around every now and again just to keep it fun for us.
Sure, yeah.
So, and again, you think, well, we're playing, the majority of the shows on the tour were places we've never played before. So we're playing Vilnius in Lithuania, we're playing Latvia, we're playing Estonia, we're playing Finland, where we'd only played one show before, Denmark, never played before, Sweden, we did maybe 3 festivals, that was it, Poland, we played one show before.
Wow.
Czech Republic, played one show before. So, maybe 20, 30 shows out of this tour were places we'd never been. So you want to kind of represent what's well known, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
So, we pick a couple of songs off the last album and play kind of a classic set. And, wasn't planned out. And it just works, it just came together great for the album.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I was thinking too, as you were talking about it, I mean, you're talking about like about 50 dates opening for Udo and his band. I mean, I know the band has a bit of a history that maybe goes all the way back to the early 80s. I would imagine, Udo's a great friend of the band. I mean, did you guys get a whole lot of FaceTime with him? Was it just like old times?
Yeah. I mean, we've known Udo obviously since we played the first date on the Accept Restless and Wild tour in Belgium in 82.
Yeah.
That's when we first met those guys. Then, of course, Udo was a co-producer on the All for One album.
That's right, yeah.
And we've played various shows, and we opened for Udo's band in 99 in Europe, in 2000 in the States. And this particular tour was his, back to the roots thing, where he was playing all Accept songs.
Yeah, yeah.
So they were, big venues, well attended, and it was a great opportunity for us to capitalize on. We've been doing a lot of hard touring in Europe, but they're mainly headline club shows. So this was, more of the 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 capacity venues.
Nice.
So a great opportunity. And, we followed that up last year with doing dates with Saxon. And you could really tell the difference. Places where we played for the second time this time round, lots of people in the front row, Raven shirts, screaming Raven, Raven, Raven between all the songs and that, and so we're doing the work, we're making a dent there, so it's gratifying to see.
That's great. And you mentioned, I think off the top of our chat here, that there is a new studio album in the works, but the release date's going to be more towards the end of 2019. I mean, how much of this stuff do you have in the can?
It's all in the can. The only thing we're going to change is we're not happy with an intro. There's an intro for the first song, and it's just not quite together, and we're going to fix that and then mix it.
Right. So
I don't think we're going to change anything else. I mean, we have that wonderful golden opportunity where, we can do a re-listen. And if we want to change anything, we have the ability to do so. We probably won't, because I really like everything that everyone's done. And it's going to have that energy. I mean, in fact, on the last, the Saxon tour and the US tour that followed, we've been playing one of the new songs live, Top of the Mountain, and the reaction's been awesome. Somebody described it as if we'd went in a time machine and followed on from Wiped Out.
Wow.
Where it's got that high energy with a lot of changes and a lot of on the edge playing. And it's like I said, it's got that energy that this live album has. It's translated big time. And, you know, we had the songs written and Mike came in and put his 10 cents in and really elevated everything to a new energy level completely.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what I was going to ask is I was assuming that Mike was playing on the new studio stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And there's a great variety. We've got songs that are like faster and crazier than ever. Things like Human Race, Cybertron. We have a Motorhead tribute called Motorheading, which is a lot of fun and very fast. And then there's more traditional Raven style rockers like Not So Easy. And there's an anthemic couple of songs like Battle Scarred and Metal City, which may be the album title. We don't know.
That sounds like
That's
a great
song about our hometown, Newcastle, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it sounds like a great title.
And then there's an epic-y, real super heavy, almost doomy thing called When Worlds Collide, which is very, very cool. So we, cover the gamut. It's here, there, and everywhere, but it's got that energy and purpose and passion all over it. So we're very happy with that.
Yeah, no kidding. And I think now I was listening to your interview with Josh Runquist of That Drummer Guy, and in that you kind of dropped a hint that there's a possibility of a new wave of British heavy metal tour with 3 or 4 bands that you might be putting together.
That would have been nice. It appears that is not going to happen at the moment. A couple of the bands involved, for whatever reason, have dropped out, and for something like that to work, it's got to have the right kind of lineup.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, so that won't happen. So we'll just be looking at doing something else. That's all this. We have new management, which is wonderful, and they're just getting to grips with a lot of business nonsense that's been lying dormant for a while, getting that together and looking at new relationships here, there, and everywhere with agents, what have you. So we're very excited about that.
Yeah. Well, that's good. And I know, like, you and I have kind of been chatting off and on over the last couple of days about your particular part in the new wave of British heavy metal, and I guess I think we commonly associate this kind of movement or maybe genre with bands like maybe Iron Maiden and Diamond Head, yourselves of course, Tigers of Pantang, but like for your own personal sake and for the sake of the listeners, I mean, how do you personally define it, seeing as you had a ringside seat to it?
Well, it was very organic, and it's not as if everyone was made a card-carrying member of the club. The music business in England particularly is very fickle. And as soon as the punk thing came along, hard rock and heavy metal was dead, according to the newspapers. All apart from Sounds. And then, of course, Kerrang came into the scene when the new wave really reared its head. But it was, the whole name and everything was coined by a journalist from Sounds, Jeff Barton, called the New Wave Rich, because he'd went to a show and he saw Iron Maiden and Angel Witch and, God, I can't remember who the other, it may have been Samson at the time. And so there was bands like those bands and ourselves up in Newcastle and Fist up in Newcastle and Def Leppard in Sheffield. They were all over the place, just playing music they loved. We were, bowing down to the gods of Judas Priest and Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath and Montrose and Rory Gallagher and UFO and Status Quo and Slade and Sweet and, all that glam stuff was in our DNA from watching it on TV and loving the bands. And it all... the one thing the bands had in common was the energy and the passion. And basically cutting to the quick. You weren't getting a lot of 10-minute songs. Everything was pretty much pared down. So there was kind of a punk thing in that, and also the punk thing of kind of do it yourself. Right. You know, people were just going out like we were because we loved the music. We were doing well on the working men's club circuit that so many bands before had used to pay their dues, like Saxon. Mm-hmm. When Saxon was Son of a Bitch, they played the same working men's clubs we did. Judas Priest before them played the same working men's clubs up in the Northeast. It was a great proving ground.
Right.
You know, you'd have people come up, you'd play, mainly covers and sneak a few originals in. They'd come up with beer mats with, requests. And quite often in the early parts of your career, the requests would just say, fuck off, stuff like that. So you learned how to entertain an audience, how to grab an audience and hold their attention. It was instrumental in dealing with this. So, it held us in good stead for many, for our career, really. It was a great way to learn how to do it.
For sure.
So the fact that there was a Neat Records, which really was just a project studio in Newcastle that did songs for pop bands playing the working men's clubs and the occasional comedy record. This band called the Tigers of Pantang went in and did a single, had it printed up, sent a copy to Sounds. They loved it, and it was all over from then on in. Their manager saw us at a gig and said, do you want to make a single? We're like, yeah, that would be awesome, because we'd been reading the papers and seeing, Def Leppard getting singled out and then touring the country and going, this is good. And Iron Maiden doing so well,
Is this about 77, 76, somewhere in there?
No. 70, we were playing all the clubs then, and we were a 4-piece up until late 79.
Yeah.
Pretty much. The founding member of the band with us, Paul Bowden, bowed out. We got another guy in for 6 months. Wasn't working great. Drummer quit. We was Sean Taylor, who is, went with Satan. Mm-hmm. And still with them now. Great guy. And we got Rob Hunter in on drums and went as a 3-piece, and that was a complete 180 and changed everything. And we all just started to blossom from then. It really was a retooling that worked for us very well, and made us a little more unique, because it was always a 4-piece or a 5-piece band usually, and there was just 3 of us making this huge racket. But like I said, all those bands, I mean, Def Leppard were nothing like Raven, and Raven were nothing like Iron Maiden, and Iron Maiden were nothing like Samson, and Samson was nothing like Venom, and Venom were nothing like Fist, and blah, 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 right down the line. Yeah. They're all, but they just had that energy and sound and tenacity and willing to go out there and do the work,
Yeah. Well, and I mean, of course, we're right on the eve of Def Leppard being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and nowadays they seem to sort of shy away from the new wave of British heavy metal, title or label. But I mean, from the way you're talking, they were right there, and they were right part of it.
Yeah, I mean, they were influential. You listen to the first single and the first album, and it's it's heavy, it's rock and roll, it's got those influences. They were very heavily influenced by like Thin Lizzy and UFO and the glam stuff. I mean, Joe Elliott's very vocal about this. He just obviously, there's a little bit derogatory thinking that everyone else in the other bands were all scruffy little hooligans with spots on their faces, and they had greater aspirations, which is fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that either. But they can't deny where they came from and what they were doing. I guess they just don't want to be part of a club, and I understand that. Because it's like, I'm, like I said, I'm not a card-carrying member of the new wave of British heavy metal, but we were there. Yeah. And, like it or lump it, we were part of it. And it's an artificial construct, but all those bands came to prominence, I guess, or came to everyone's knowledge around the same time. So there you have it.
Well, and now it's interesting, of course, to see bands like Satan, who were maybe a little late on the scene, and then, of course, Tigers of Pantang, that I think are from your neck of the woods, that are, they're finally maybe getting a little bit more recognition because they're putting out great records just in the last few years. I mean, in your estimation, I mean, are there bands that sort of spectacularly over or underachieved based on the general opinion at the time?
Well, I mean, there's an old saying about, the greatest guitarist on earth is probably sitting in his bedroom somewhere, and that doesn't always translate into everything else. Some of the greatest bands in the world are not the greatest musicians. Maybe they just had great marketing.
Yeah.
And this can happen. And, take a band like Budgie, who were so influential. And shot themselves in the foot so many times, and I feel for that because we've done the same thing. Every band's done it at some point. A career of 14, 15 albums, you're going to have at least one stinker. I think.
Yeah.
If you're trying to move forward, you're going to misstep eventually.
Yeah.
It's very unusual if you don't. But they should have done so much better. But there's a band that's hugely influential, and there's a band that should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, for God's sake, right there, So it's tough, but basically it's one of those laws of physics where you have to put in X amount of hard work and time and hours in order to incrementally move forward. Some people didn't do the work. It's really what it is. And then there's a luck factor. And then there's a factor of being in the right place at the right time. And then there's the factor of being aware enough to act upon that.
Yeah.
We've been in that situation maybe 2 or 3 times. And sometimes it's worked for us, sometimes it hasn't. And right now, I know it's one of those times where the wheel is turned, everything's in our favor. All the little things we touch turn to gold. It's moving forward. So, that's why this time we're being a little smarter about it, because next time the wheel comes around, we'll probably be in walkers and wheelchairs, for God's sake.
Yeah. Well, now I can definitely remember you guys in the early 80s with, All For One that came out. And then there was sort of more of a, glossy produced major label, thing with the Pack Is Back and Stay Hard. I think you guys
that was a lot of pressure on a bunch of young kids who were basically over here in America, living on $25 a week if they were lucky, and you get promised, you do X and Y is going to happen. It's not that big a deal. Just do this, and then you find out that the producer used all the clean guitars that he insisted we record rather than the dirty ones, and your drummer, makes things difficult by insisting on playing to a click track when he traditionally plays behind the beat slightly, so all the push and pulls removed from the record. That's a case of a perfect storm in the wrong way.
Yeah.
A lot of things came together, and all you can do is look at it as a learning experience, which we did, and we moved forward from it.
Yeah.
But it was at a very transitional time in music where it split, where you had hair bands and you had basically full out, as Joe Elliott would have called them, the scruffy, dirty, spotty thrash bands,
Yeah.
And we were literally between two camps, because we had the craziness, the energy, the chaos. But we wrote songs and we had melody.
Yeah.
And we were wearing outrageous costumes for at least like a year and a half of our existence then, because it just seemed to fit with the craziness we were doing. And things changed, and we just knuckled down and did the work and worked through the end of the hair metal thing and worked through the grunge thing and came out on the other side. And everything was looking great until my brother had a terrible accident in 2001.
That's right, yeah.
And he, had to learn how to walk again. And, it took us a good 4.5 years before, but he's a stubborn man. He put the work in, and, it's hard to believe he's back.
For sure, yeah.
Stronger than ever, really.
Well, it's great to see him up and around again, and it's great to see you guys, releasing the quality material that you've been doing just in the last, 6, 7, 8 years. It's like you said, it's a very exciting time for the band, and I appreciate that you guys are working as hard as you ever have.
Yeah, it's, we don't want to play the oldies card. I mean, in some ways, like it was time for a change. Joe had the heart attack, and we wish him well, but he really didn't want to be out on the road.
Yeah,
he was pretty much done, but we didn't, and we still have worlds to conquer and places to check off and things to do on our bucket list to check off. So it's great to have Mike on board and to start this basically a whole new chapter and move forward. So like you say, we've done the Walk Through Fire was a great comeback album after being away for a while. We consolidated that with Extermination. We raised the bar, did it better. We knew we had a tough job this time. I know we've raised the bar in every department on this and just, upped the insanity factor. And we're already writing for the next one, even though this one's not even out, because we're prolific. We write all the time.
Yeah.
And we joined the 21st century. I have computer recording right here, and we're learning the ropes.
There you go. Aren't we all? Well, listen, John, I really appreciate how generous you've been with your time today. It's always a privilege and an honor to be able to chat with you about your music and other related subjects. So thanks again.
You bet, and hopefully we'll see you up in your neck of the woods before too long.
That would be amazing. I would really like that.
All right, man. You have a good one.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.